Kia ora. Welcome to the Electricity Brief. In each episode, we bring you a conversation with the people that are shaping New Zealand's electricity market. We talk about what's happening, why it matters, and what it means for you. This time, we're joined by Hayden Glass, General Manager of Wholesale and Supply at the Electricity Authority. And Hayden's going to talk us through the level playing field decisions. Kia ora, Hayden. It's great to have you with us today.
Kia ora. Thanks, Carl. It's great to be here.
So Hayden, before we delve deep into the nitty-gritty, could you help orient us into the frame? What are the key challenges that the level playing field work's trying to address? How do we think this is going to make a difference?
Sure. So in our market structure, we have four major generator retailers. So they both generate electricity and then they sell it to customers in households. We also have a set of independent retailers who buy their electricity mostly from the generator retailers and then try and compete with them in the retail market. So there have been concerns for a very long time that the deals that the retailers are essentially doing internally aren't available to these firms who are buying from them at wholesale and competing with them at retail. And so it's that the level playing field measures are aiming to give some more confidence around, both on the non-price terms to make sure that they can get responses to the RFPs, and also on the price terms to make sure that the prices that they're offered at wholesale are sufficient, that there's enough gap to them to compete with the generator retailers at retail.
This might be a really good point to pause and clarify the terminology. We hear a lot about the level playing field, but we also hear quite a bit about non-discrimination obligations. Could you clarify these two terms for us, Hayden?
Sure. So the level playing field is the name of the initiative as a whole, and it's a descriptive term of what we're aiming to do here, i.e. we're trying to level up the situation as between the independent participants and the integrated generator retailers. The non-discrimination obligations, those are the tool that we have chosen as a way to level the playing field. It's been a long process, some years, and we have investigated many other options, and we've decided that non-discrimination obligations are the lowest cost and the fastest, most effective way to give more confidence that the independent retailers are able to compete with these integrated firms.
Perfect. So having cleared the terminology up, let's come to the decisions themselves. What's been decided? How's it going to make a difference?
Sure. So there's four main decisions here. The first and the biggest headlines are around the non-discrimination obligations themselves. So these are a set of obligations that will be imposed on the generator retailers, just those big four firms, and they'll come into effect from the 1st of July. They discipline the way that the firms internally communicate, and also make sure that any arrangements that they have with their internal arms are also available to firms who are not who are outside of those four generator retailers. So that's step one. Step two, and that's mostly focused on non-price terms. So that's mostly focused on being able to get a response to your request and being able to have a certain amount of time to consider and respond to that RFP response, those kinds of matters. The other thing that we're doing is called the RPCA, the Retail Price Consistency Assessment. So these are a new requirement. Those are primarily focused on prices. Now, the reason that we're doing that is because the generator retailers have both wholesale and retail prices. The RPCA is designed to test that there's enough gap between the generation that you're selling, the price that you're selling generation at, and the retail price that you're acquiring retail customers at, so that anybody who's equally efficient as your retail arm can make money while competing with you. The third thing is the timetables. So we've got a 1 July 2026 is when the obligations begin, and the first reporting is due on the 3rd of September 2026, so quite soon after. And then on a 6-monthly rolling cycle will be the RPCA reports. So we will start, from the Electricity Authority's point of view, receiving all this information a little bit later this year, and then we'll be processing it and we'll be making sense of it, and we'll be publishing analysis of what those things are telling us. And the other piece of the puzzle is just that the firms themselves are also required to have policies to make sure that they can comply with the non-discrimination obligations and the RPCA rules. And so they're required to develop internal policies, and they're required to audit and report that they are in fact compliant with these new rules at the board level, so to make sure that the firms take it extremely seriously.
And the RPCAs that you talk about are this new requirement for gentailers. Are you concerned that this is going to drive up price by creating more work for them?
So we've looked really carefully at all of the options for intervention, and we've chosen non-discrimination obligations precisely because we think that they can get a direct improvement in the things that we're interested in, i.e. confidence that there isn't some sort of sweetheart deal going on at very low cost. We don't expect them to increase the cost for the gentailers materially, and therefore we don't expect any impact on retail prices or for that matter, wholesale prices. What has been argued about is does it affect the way that firms think about their retail prices because they have to take into account all of their downstream competition as well as their internal needs. But if a gentailer were to see the RPCA in particular as causing them to want to put up retail prices, then we would expect them to explain that to us and to document their logic. And because, as I say, we don't see why this small impost on them, this additional reporting in particular, would lead to any material change in their costs. And in a competitive market, you wouldn't expect, without a change in costs, there to be a change in prices.
And there's a self-reporting element in this. So it seems like there's a lot of trust being placed in the gentailers to play ball, to come to the party transparently. How confident is the authority in the openness, transparency that you'll achieve here?
So they will be required to report to us every 6 months. I think the piece that you're getting at is because the firms are different from each other, the way that they will do this, they'll demonstrate compliance, might vary between the firms. So when we were considering how much a prescription to put into those rules, we decided to be quite unprescriptive. That is to say, there's quite a lot of room to move. We're at the principled level in terms of our non-discrimination obligations. What we have said is we will learn, and we will learn quickly, and if we discover that the rules aren't quite right, or that they're leaving too much room, or that people are still concerned that there's game playing going on, or that the gentailers are still in a position to make life difficult in the retail market downstream, then we will of course relook at our rules and look to tighten up where that is appropriate.
Hayden, will there be penalties for non-compliance with the NDO requirements?
Yes, there will. So they are, once the code change is made, they're a legal requirement on the gentailers, and they'll be enforceable through our usual market mechanisms. But also the government has proposed to increase the powers of the Electricity Authority, and in particular to increase the maximum penalty that can be imposed through the rulings panel process, which is our kind of our private court system for the electricity market. And so from 2027, we would expect that penalties of up to $10 million could be levied for a breach. Now, that would be a very serious one, but nevertheless, it gives a sense of the scale of the importance of these obligations in the market.
And that leads to another big question, and there's commentary about this in the public domain about whether the authority should have gone further into forcing that vertical separation between retail and wholesale. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so as I said earlier on, we considered all sorts of options earlier in this process, and we gradually narrowed the field down to trying to do something A, in non-discrimination, and then B, with this extra retail price consistency assessment. So earlier on, we did look at a couple of much more interventionist options. One of them is virtual disaggregation, which essentially would take control of some of the gentailers' generation and mean that they would no longer be able to decide how that effectively got offered, like require them to offer a certain amount of their generation in a particular way. And then further, even more interventionist would be some form of structural separation or a separation of the firms in a different way. Separating retail from wholesale is one that's talked about, but there are other possibilities there. Our view is that we legally don't have the power to do that. That is such a material change to the system that it would require legislation, and we see some political parties talking about it.
Hayden, none of this work sits in isolation. So where does the NDO's initiative and the broader context of the level playing field, where does that sit in the authority's portfolio of work?
Yes, that's right. The level playing field decisions are an important piece of the puzzle, but there are several other decisions that play a supporting role. In particular, we've made decisions recently on market making that will extend the forward curve. At the moment, we have a 3-year public view of what prices will do, electricity prices will do. We're proposing to extend that to 5 years, which will give more certainty for market participants about what prices are coming down the track. The second thing that we are doing is we are market making what we call the super peak product. And so that provides electricity in the peak periods at the beginning and the end of each day. So we will have greater confidence that prices for that product are reliable. And we are also looking at long duration firming. Now, this is the dry year problem is changing its nature a bit as we have more solar and wind in the network. And the Electricity Authority will be looking this year at how big is that problem, how is it changing over time, and are there anything that we could do on the market side that would help participants to manage those risks in a lower cost way to the system. So yeah, there's a whole set of work there that hangs together with improving confidence in the market, improving wholesale competition, and ensuring that independent retailers can thrive.
And it's really connected and sounds really thoroughly thought out with the key decisions at play now. So is the job done? Do you foresee the need to come back and review some of this work and these decisions in future?
So as you know, Carl, the rulebook is about this high. And so we are always in the process of reviewing. But specifically in relation to the level playing field, yes, we anticipate gathering this information and reporting upon it and making a list of improvements to make. Now, they may be big or they might be small. And then we anticipate in a couple of years a full relook at the whole system to basically test, did we get it right, but also are the costs that we're imposing showing commensurate with the benefits that we are seeing. And that will provide an opportunity to test whether those original decisions that we made, basically saying NDOs are the best first option, were right, or whether we need to take further measures to build confidence around competition in the wholesale market.
So Hayden, with all that's going on, how do consumers most stand to benefit from this work?
Sure. So the idea here is that we're improving the effectiveness of the electricity market, and that will improve competition at retail, and that will lead to more options for consumers and better pricing over time. We're quite a long way from consumers at this point. We're way down the sort of wholesale generation end of things, and we're in the wholesale contracting market, which is its whole world of hedges and things that consumers are not exposed to. But we anticipate that improving competition in these structural and foundational areas can help over time build the position of independent and competitive retailers and bring more innovation to market and bring greater confidence and investment from at the retail end where most consumers are.
Hayden, really appreciate you coming in with us and your time with us today. Thank you so much.
Kia ora, such a pleasure.
And really appreciate everyone joining in online. This is a really fascinating topic. We've probably skimmed the surface of some key areas. So for those of you that would like to find more, there's a lot more information on the authority's website at www.ea.govt.nz. Ka kite anō. We'll see you again soon.